Good morning, everyone. Thanks for coming to class today. We are going to start on our backs and have a strap and both of your blocks nearby just so you can grab them. We're going to be playing last class Wednesday, we worked with inner thighs, and we're going to stay with that a little bit as we work our way through our bodies. So come on down. Oh, it always feels so good to lay down on the mat. So start with your feet on the floor and just spread the shoulders out so that they're nice and wide. And then the hands can be just down on either side. And I want you to feel your feet on the floor. If you want, you can take the feet wide and draw the knees in. For some people, that's really, really comfortable. And then try to find the center line of the pelvis. We've been talking about that a whole bunch. So maybe you rock forward and back a few times and just find the middle space. If you could, often I'll picture a line drawn across the center of my pelvis. And that's kind of where I'm headed. So that if we were to look at the pelvis, both side to side, it feels even. And then the belly button to the groin feels pretty level for us. So you don't want to overarch or tuck really strongly. Just want to see if you can find the middle space and maybe have a little bit of space behind the lower back, right? So I always think if you could throw a few blueberries under there, or a few raspberries under there, you would have some spacing behind the lower back. And then from all of that, right, all of that settling in, feeling your feet, feeling your shoulders down toward the floor, just pause here, take some nice deep breaths. And maybe feel each of your toes on the floor. And maybe notice where the four corners of the feet land. And notice if holding the pelvis in this more neutral space feels tense. And if it does, try to soften through the belly. Draw the breath there, big belly breath, and then exhaling it and letting it go. And notice if you have unnecessary tension in the neck or in the jaw. And allow yourself to fully come into your yoga practice. And then walk your feet together. So the big toe edges of your feet are together, your inner ankles are together, and keep your left knee where it is and just let the right knee fall out to the side. So you'll lean more into your right hip, and that's okay for now. Don't worry about the hips, the left hip lifting up. Just pause here and try to keep the left knee pointing straight up toward the ceiling. And just breathe here for a moment. So, depending on our hips and on our bodies and how we're made up, we might be really tense in the inner thighs, or we might be really loose here. So we're just going to give it some space and allow it to hold. Now, if this is painful for anybody, you're going to take a block underneath that outer knee so that you have a little bit of support. And then leave the right knee where it is, just off to the side, and start to draw the left knee out to the left more slowly until your pelvis comes back to neutral. So it's really a supine Baddha Konasana, right? So the right knee might come up more than it is, but just draw the left knee wide until you come back to the center of your pelvis. Pause. Breathe. And then go the other way. So the right knee points up to the ceiling, the left knee heads toward the floor. You're leaning more on the left hip than the right. I've got a little bit of space under that right hip. And just breathe. Maybe you notice one side feels tighter than the other. Just allow gravity to draw that left knee closer to the floor without forcing it. So if you force it, right, if I try to bring my left knee all the way to the floor, the right knee is not going to be centered. And then very slowly start to open up the right knee. Start to let it drift until you find center again. Pause here. Big deep breath. And then one more, both sides. Bring the left knee to point ceiling. The right knee falls closer to the floor. You might notice with very little effort that that knee is closer to the floor than it was the first time. Find your breath. Maybe take the left arm out to cactus pose. So you've got your right knee heading toward the floor. You've got your left arm in a cactus pose here, just a little cross stretch. Big deep breath, everybody. And then come towards center, go slow. Find the middle line of your pelvis. Find your breath. Release the left arm. Maybe it goes back to the belly, your hand to your belly. And other side. So right knee points up, left leg points down. The right arm can come out in cactus. Again, maybe you notice one side different than the other. Big deep breath, everybody. Soften through the inner groin on the left side. Just let it go. And then bring both knees back to center, both knees back to center. Draw both knees to chest. Hold your right knee in, stretch your left leg long, let it come all the way to the floor. Your hands go underneath your right knee and take the right leg up to the ceiling. So ground the left leg, feel the activity there, straight leg as best you can. If you need to bend it, go ahead and bend it, right? If the hamstring won't open that way. And then point and flex your right foot. Good, few times here. And then flex nice and strong. Feel your big toe head toward your knee. And then point really strongly, big stretch. And then release it, bring that knee to chest, straighten both legs to the floor. Pause here for just a second and then draw your left knee to your chest. The hands go behind your left knee. Take the left leg up to the ceiling. Woo, say good morning to your hamstrings, everybody. Breathe, nice straight left leg if you can. You can always use a strap here, by the way. And then point and flex, point and flex. Good, one more. Big strong flex here. Press through the back of the knee gently. And point really strong. And then draw that knee to chest and straighten both legs. Good. Just kind of feel what's going on with your pelvis, with your hips, and then bend both knees. Draw both knees to chest, both knees to chest. Good. Take your hands underneath both thighs, right behind both knees, and take both legs up to the ceiling. Flex your feet, draw the inner ankles toward each other. Take the hands to the inner knees and go wide. So wide for you is going to be different from somebody else. There should be zero pain here. You can take the hands to the outer thighs and give yourself a little bit of support. But what I'd rather you not do is go crazy here, right? Go like big. So go slow and just start to feel a stretch if you can in the inner thighs while keeping the pelvis more neutral than normal. Try not to flatten completely in the lower back, just getting a stretch through those inner thighs. And then take the hands to the outer knees and squeeze them back in. Good. Exhale and let them come out again. Go gently. Just explore here. Just breathe. Notice, how's it feel in your body? Where do you feel the tightness? Can you externally rotate the toes, the legs a little bit? And then hands to the outside, bring them in, bend your knees, listen up. Both knees go separated from each other, go apart from each other. So you're in a supine Baddha Konasana, but the feet are off the floor. Take the legs straight up and wide, and then bring them together. Good. Bend the knees, open the knees wide, straighten the legs up. Bring them back together. One more just like this. Bend the knees go out wide, the legs straighten out wide, the legs come back together, and then draw the knees to your chest. Good job, everybody. Whew. And take your feet to the floor. Grab both of your blocks and snug them, and really snug them to either side of your hips. So you're just going to squeeze them in. You're going to take the legs back up to the ceiling and then widen through the legs and keep the blocks snugged into your hips. So they're like little bumpers on either side. It should cause your hips to stop or your legs to stop at a certain point. If it doesn't, so I have my blocks on the lowest level and I'm holding them in so they don't slip out. If it doesn't, then take the blocks up a little bit higher. But again, especially my really stretchy gals out there, try to resist. Oh, I want to go wider. I want more. I want more. See if you can stay here. And then soften the shoulders down. Find your breath. Flex the feet. Externally rotate the legs. Pause. And then squeeze the legs in like you're going through mud. Squeeze them in. Bend the knees, remove your blocks, hang on to one block, take your feet to the floor, and then just straighten the legs for a moment. Just check it out. We're almost done here. Good. Bend your knees. Take the block between your feet. Squeeze that block. The legs go back up. If you have some low back stuff, maybe you take your thumbs underneath your sit bones or underneath your sacrum for a little bit more support. But I want you to flex the feet, squeeze your block, right? It's going to be wobbly. That's normal. And then bend the knees to 90 degrees. Woo! Here we go, right? So if I move those knees away a little bit, there goes the core. Yay, happy core, right? We engage the core, we don't overarch, we don't underarch. We find that neutral spine, we find that beautiful little pelvis that feels so nice and neutral. And then we breathe. Hold on, everybody. Just press through those feet. Let the inner knees head toward each other so that the knees and the hips and the feet are pretty well lined up. Squeeze your block, everybody. I know this is work. We're getting that core working. The hip flexors are working. Take a nice deep breath here. And then try to hang on to that angle, but just straighten the knees. Woo! Breathe again, hands underneath if you're feeling like you need a little extra support. Breathe and then bend the knees, but don't bring them in. We're almost done. And straighten and bend. Woo! Got one more. Straighten, straighten. Hold on to that core work and bend, and then bring your knees to your chest. Grab your block. Hold on to those knees. Roll over to one side, everybody, and come on up to a seat. Woo-hoo. That felt good this morning. So if you can, come on up and sit cross-legged. If that hurts your knees, you're up in a chair or you're sitting up on a blanket or the legs are straight, right? And then just roll the shoulders a little bit. Let's just get the upper body warmed up. And then inhale, take the arms up. Exhale, one hand down, the other arm stays close to your ear or your ear stays close to your arm as we start to stretch one side. And then draw down through that same side hip, right? So feel the hip draw down, feel the arm stretch. Maybe slide the hand that's on the floor out a little bit more. So now we're working with our side body. And then bring that arm up and see if you can reach it up, still sideways, both arms. Reach, and take it up. Whew. Exhale. Yep, sneaking in some more core work there. Inhale, take it up. Exhale, hand down, other arm up. Roll that supporting shoulder down and under. Draw through the lower belly. Press down through the opposite hip if you can. Find your breath. Good extension through that arm if you can. Watch the head, right? We tend to drop that head down toward our shoulder. I'd rather see it up closer to the arm if you can. And then maybe slide out a little bit more. Feel that. Ooh, big stretch. And then slide the hand in enough to take it off the floor. Breathe, everybody, chest open and all the way up. Exhale, take it down. Roll it out. And then both arms up. Take that first arm out to the side and then imagine you're going to kind of patty cake, right? You're just going to bring the other arm in and come to center. One arm goes out, the other one heads toward it, and they both come to center. One more, both sides. Take one arm out, squeeze the other one toward, and then both up. One arm out, squeeze the other one toward it, and up, and then exhale, let go. Whew. Almost done here. Maybe switch out your legs however you normally sit, always remembering to get the flesh out from the sit bones, shake it out, and then take the arms to cactus. And then sit, just kind of snuggle in and sit and see if you can find both sit bones nice and even. And then take both arms in one direction for a twist. Keep the elbows up, draw the so I'm twisting, if I'm mirroring here, I'm twisting to the left, bring the right arm back more. So the shoulders got broad and center. Twist everything to your right, pause, and then bring the left elbow back more and center. Twist everything left, listen up. You're gonna take the left arm and bring it back center and then open it up again. So the back arm comes to the center and goes back. Good. One more. Bring that back arm to the center and back. Bring everything back to center. Last one. Twist everything to the right. Hang in there. Breathe. And then the back arm comes back to the center and opens up. And center and open. Last one. Bring it center and open it and everything back to center. Whew, let it go. Shake it out, everybody. And then straighten both legs out in front of you. Move the flesh out from the sit bones again. Fire up the legs, flex through the feet, press the big toe mounds out, and then see if you can sit really tall, Dandasana pose. The hands come down to your sides, the shoulders draw back, the chest is rising. And imagine that you have, right, a little tiny weight at the very top of the head, the very crown of the head, and you're going to lift that head up and away from the neck, from the shoulders without lifting your chin. Find your breath. Keep the legs active, everybody. Inhale the arms up. As you exhale, interlace them behind your head. This is tricky, right? Because we're asking the chest to stay really tall. Press the back of the head into the hands. Very gentle again. There's not a lot of work that needs to be done here. Legs are active. You should be feeling those legs a bit by now. Breathe and let go. Whoo, good. Bend the legs and just shake them out, everybody. Good. Last one here. You're going to take your left leg. If you can, you're going to bend it and set it underneath you. If that hurts your knee, because I know I got a few of my gals out there in particular with knee stuff, then you're going to keep the leg straight. Okay. And remember, you can sit up on a blanket. The other thing here is if your knee is bent, but it's really high up, just take a block underneath the knee. Give that a little support. And then take your right leg and step over. Just right here, nothing else we have to do. Remember, the bottom leg can be straight. And hold on to that top knee, that right knee, and roll the shoulders back. And find that beautiful spine, a little bit of tone to the lower belly, keeping that transverse abdominis, that low belly, nice and active. The shoulders are down, and just notice this twist or this stretch of the hip. And breathe. And then if this is your right leg, your left arm wraps around it, and we start a twist, but I only want you to go part way. I want you to angle out so that you're still, you're not looking back behind you. You're angled out just beyond that thigh. And pause. And then try to find the sit bones and then gently press this right knee into your arm, just a little bit, right? So we're going to find some resistance here. We're going easy. If you can use a hand here too. So we're doing a little bit of isometric work to find the stretch without going super deep into a twist. I'm really more interested in the hip stretch than I am in the twist. So find your breath and release it. Come back to center, lean back and switch sides. So one leg goes to the floor, the other one steps over. We're finding this nice little twist again. I've got centered on both sit bones, and I'm just going to sit really tall. Really tall. Breathe. So if your left knee is in front, the right arm just wraps a little bit. I'm really not overdoing it. You can do your hand to here. And as I twist that part way, kind of just a soft diagonal past that thigh, I'm keeping my spine really tall. And I'm just going to pause here for a moment. How does this feel on this side with this hip? Are there things talking to me? Am I still overachieving here, overdoing, right? It's a big, big lesson for me to not overachieve, not overdo. So I'm just feeling this sweet little stretch. And then I'm going to try to push my knee into my arm a little, my arm resisting that, just to feel a little more activity there, a little bit more stretch for me. If it's already enough without the push, then don't do it. And I'm really pushing 10, 20% at the most. Big deep breath. And take it back to center. We're almost done here. Straighten the legs. Give those legs a little bit of a break. And then Baddha Konasana seat. Now, if you're in a chair, you can take the knees to the outside and bring the feet toward each other, still sitting up really tall. And remember, again, if your knees are way up here, you might want to be up on a block or up on a couple of blankets just to get yourself allow these hips to relax. And then just pause. Again, not doing anything too much yet. We're going to be working with these inner thighs a lot. What I really would like for you to feel is this nice tall spine sitting right over the hips. The spine is neutral, the pelvis is neutral. I'm not overdoing anything. Find your breath. And then the hands go to the inside knees. Now, you know this, right? If you've been taking my classes, I want you to push up, do not push down. And that pushes again at 10 or 20%. Feel the work and then just release it. So we want to stretch inner thighs, but we also want to strengthen inner thighs. We don't want to do one without the other. So push up again, 10, 20%. The whole rest of your body stays nice and tall. Exhale, release, right? Maybe a little butterfly, a little shake out. And we got one more here. So hands are to the inner knees. We're going to press up. We're just going to resist that. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Release, just let it go. And then hands to the outer knees, bring them in. Walk the feet in if you can and curl yourself around. Just squeeze everything back to center and let go. Good job, everyone. Let's come right to table pose. You're going to have your blocks in front of you. Coming to table pose, tone in through your belly. Hold that pose, wrap those arms around the beach ball. Press your right leg straight back. Feel your belly level out, feel your hips level out. Lift your right leg and then point your toes and breathe. And just play with this idea that we could move the hip, right? That right side hip up or down and move through while working with the left hip. So you can lift the hip up and lift it down, lift it up one more time, drop it down, and then find level. Flex your foot and turn the toes out. Slide that right leg over an imaginary table, drop that foot to the floor. Take a look at your left knee. Make sure the left knee is underneath your left hip. Scoot your butt back a little bit so that the hip and the ankle line up, and then walk your hands all the way back. Come on up, everybody. Gate pose. I know, not everybody's favorite, but it's a fun one to play with because, again, we've got this whole mechanism here of the hip and the groin and the inner thigh. So first things first, right? If this right hip is rolling way forward, you can put a lot of strain here. You can see this whole hip complex rolls forward with it. So what happens if we actually draw it down? We take that sit bone and draw it down and then squeeze through the belly and feel that. So one, you're right here, that's plenty enough. You'll feel the stretch here already. Otherwise, the arms rise up. The right hand comes down toward the knee. We're very gentle here. The left arm reaches up and we stretch through that whole left side. Belly tones in. Watch this hip. Keep it seated, right? As we breathe. And this right hand, you should be able to lift it. Should not be putting weight on that outer knee. Breathe, everybody. How's the side body, right? Holy moly. And then take both arms up. Hold on to the beach ball right between your fingers. And then take the left hand halfway down your thigh. Push your thigh into your hand into your thigh, and stretch the right side from toes to fingertips. That's it. Take both arms up. Take the hips back as the hands come down to the floor. Find that table pose again. Lift the leg, slide it all the way across, and let it come back. Maybe sit back in a little bit of child's pose. Notice how that felt. If you have your toes flipped under, even better to stretch out the backs of the feet. And then come on back up, table pose. In case you think you're seeing things, I turned around while you were there. So I have some room. Press the left leg back. Hone in through the belly. Lift the legs. See if you can find a level feeling pelvis. Point your toes. And then same thing this side. Just lift the left hip, left leg, and drop it down. And lift it up and down. It's almost like you're trying to lift the hip to almost stack the hips and then dropping it back down again. One more. Just lift and lower. And then find the neutral spot, what feels good and neutral to you. Flex your foot. Breathe. Turn your toes out to the side. Slide that leg over that imaginary table. Drop the foot down. And before you do anything else, one, take a look at the right knee, right hip. You really want those pretty much underneath each other. The right hip, or sorry, the left hip and left ankle, lining up, and then take the hands up. And pause again and just see, what am I doing with this extended hip? Am I raising it up and rolling it forward? Can I drop it down? And feel like this back sit bone is heading toward the inner thigh of my right leg. It's kind of a tricky little thing, but what we want is support. Then the glute gets active, right? Then we can find stability here. Inhale, reach the arms up. Again, left hand slides down super gentle. The right arm reaches up. We are mindful to not overarch in the low back here. Find your breath. Ah, such a nice twist here. Such a nice stretch. Again, this can easily be done in a chair if you're working on the chair today. And inhale, reach up. Exhale, slide the right hand halfway down the thigh and then push into the thigh. Resist with that thigh. Stretch from your left fingers to your left toes. Take both arms up. Exhale, hands come down. Hands or wrists are under shoulders. Tone the belly in. Lift that leg. Slide it back. And let that knee come back down. Maybe flip the toes under, reach the arms forward, and come into this variation of child's pose. Stretch it all out, everyone. And then slide up. Just going to take the outer shirt off for now. I think I'm warm enough. Flip your toes under. Come to downward facing dog. Take your feet wide, everybody. So your pinky toes are toward the edges of your mat. And just shake the hips side to side. One heel can come in and then the other heel. We're just shaking those hips out a little bit. But notice as you do this, right? Notice what's going on in the upper body. We're weighting one hand a little more and then the other hand, but the upper body is steady, steady. And then take your hips back to center. Keep the feet wide. Bend the knees. Pause. Draw the inner ankles toward each other just a little bit and stretch your upper body. Low belly tones in, the sit bones are rising up. And then slowly straighten those legs a little bit more. The heels isometrically draw in. Breathe. And then walk your feet back toward hips width apart. Inhale to tippy toes. Exhale, lower your knees to the floor. I'm just going to turn around so I have my blocks where I need them and step forward with your right leg. Once you got your right leg forward, grab your blocks. Take the blocks up nice and high. And pause here for just a moment. So, right, so we've been working a lot about not dropping that front hip or that left side hip too much, keeping the right glute active, leveling out the pelvis, and start to bring the hips back, both hips back just a little bit. So the front knee is still bent. You're going to start to feel the hamstring here and maybe a little bit of that inner thigh starting to work. Start to straighten the front leg a little bit more, but I'm going to invite you to go slower than normal, right? So as I start to straighten the front leg, I feel all these hamstring attachments moving into the sit bone. And I'm wondering which one is tighter, which one is looser. If I wiggle the hips a little, I'm partway back, and I wiggle these hips a little, what's actually going on there? And then maybe you straighten a little more. Ooh, yeah. And then go, oh, yeah, that outer hamstring feels kind of tight. So, what would happen if I drew the right hip, the right outer hip back a little bit? What does that change? And then, for those of you who can, go ahead and flex the foot, draw the hips back even more. The leg becomes much straighter. Resist the urge to drop your torso. You can lower the blocks a little bit, but keep the torso tall. Take a deep breath here. See what happens when you shift the hips a little bit. And then bend your front knee, walk those blocks forward and switch sides. Super easy. Bring the right leg back. Bring the left foot forward. Start in a nice low lunge here, right? We engage the back glute. We feel the hips nice and neutral here. Just breathe. I like starting this with the blocks up high because it just gives me a little bit more room to explore. So I'm just going to start to straighten the front leg and I'm going to wiggle that hip a little bit. Outside, inside, right? So we notice, right? If our tendency is to roll the front knee in, you can see when I wiggle the left hip forward, the knee goes in. If I roll it out, it's going to roll the knee out. So we know that the hips, the pelvis controls so much. And then straighten a little more. Now it starts to get interesting for me, right? I feel the stretch as I try to lift the sit bone just a little bit. Maybe I wiggle again and go, where am I tight on this side? Is it more inner? Is it more outer? Breathe. And then maybe I lower the blocks for me, flex the foot, begin to straighten the leg, keep the torso tall, breathe. And then bend your front knee, everybody. Set your blocks in front. Lift your right knee, step back, downward facing dog, and just pedal out the feet. How'd that feel? How's the hammies, right? And then lower down to the knees. We're almost done with this. You're back to table pose. And again, if you're working with a chair, I think at least one of you I know is working with a chair, then your hands are on the chair and you're going to kick one leg out and lift it up. You're standing on the other foot. Bend the knee, everybody. Try to level out the hips and squeeze isometrically the hamstring that we just stretched. So I'm not asking you to bring your heel to your glute. I'm just seeing if you could squeeze it isometrically and draw that hamstring in again and release it. Other side, straighten the left leg, lift the left leg, bend the knee to 90 degrees, and imagine squeezing that hamstring. Imagine activating the hamstring. Notice what you feel here. And release. Down dog, one more. Take your feet wide on the mat and then walk your hands all the way back. Find your forward fold. Imagine the inner heels heading toward each other, right? Again, isometrically working with that. Look at your feet. Are they parallel to each other? I'm trying to draw the inner ankles toward each other, the tops of the feet isometrically pressing away from each other. Bend the knees, hands come up to knees. Come on up. And shake it out. Grab one block. Take it between your thighs. Give it a squeeze. Give it a nice little squeeze. I love this little reset. Makes it easy. And then let go. All right, so both blocks to the front of your mat. Pyramid pose, right? So where all this is going. So pyramid pose, left foot forward, right foot back. It's a 3/4 or 2/3 step, depending on you. The hips roll forward, the torso rolls forward. The back foot, generally speaking, is angled slightly or angled more in than sideways. Here we are again with this back hip, right? It rolls forward, which helps the hips become more even. But the hips being even is not the goal. As we hinge, right? So I'm going to really ground this front foot. Try not to hyperextend the front knee. I know a couple of you there. As we draw the hips forward, we hinge here. Hands can go to your hips. You can feel what's happening, right? If we're playing with a neutral pelvis, if we're playing with this kind of interesting idea of a clock face, you're halfway down. I want you to push the legs away from each other isometrically. And then take your hands to your blocks. And notice, just kind of notice what's happening with the legs. Walk your blocks forward of your feet if you can, and then soften the torso toward the leg without rounding forward. Drawing the left hip back, drawing the right hip forward, feeling this neutral little clock face of the pelvis. Big deep breath. Yep, you got it, everybody. Notice if you're leaning off your big toe mound of your front foot. If you are, draw that foot more neutral. Breathe. And then bend your front knee. I'm going to be out of room here. Walk your blocks forward a little bit and stand strong on that leg. Lift the other leg, level out the hips one more time. Maybe point the toes for a change. And bend that knee, feet to the floor. Bend both knees and just a little squat here, a little hip dance, a little stretch out. And then come on back up to standing. Whew. Love it. All right. Right foot forward, left foot back. Here we are again. The blocks are in place on your mat. I just want to see where the stance is going to go on this side. That back thigh rolls in, right? And think of the inner thigh rolling back on the left side. The right foot nice and engaged. Hands come to your hips. Fire up the back leg, the back glute a little bit. Stand tall. And then start to hinge from the hips. Go slow and go, wow, what's happening? Right? Does the right hip want to roll forward? Can I press the legs away from each other? Can I find some levelness there as I take my hands down to my blocks? And then adjust your pose accordingly. Maybe your back foot is straight on. Maybe that's better for your ankle. Can you draw the front inner heel in isometrically, slightly? What is that change in this whole leg dynamic? Breathe. Torso is tall. Walk the blocks forward some if you can. Start to soften the elbows, lengthening and lowering the torso, but don't overdo. Press the feet away. Find your breath. And then bend your front knee, walk the blocks forward, press into your blocks, lift the leg, engage, wrap this outer right hip back. Nice solid leg here. And lower those legs. Bend both knees, take your hands to your knees, and come on up. Woo, shake it out, everybody. Grab your blocks, go wide on your mat. Take the blocks down in front of you. Take your feet wide, turn the toes out just a little bit, and bend one knee and then the other knee. And just stretch. This should feel good for most of us. We're just going from one side to the other side. And the next time you are over to the left, I want you to pause. And then I want you to sit back. What's that mean? I want you to take the hips, take the glutes, sit back until you feel like you're more or less at the center of your feet. Some of you can lower the blocks. Some of you don't need the blocks because you got long arms like me. Breathe. Where do you feel this, everybody? What happens when you shift the hips slightly? What happens when you tone the low belly, the pubic bone to the belly button? And then switch sides, go to the other side, sit back in your pose, press down through both big toe mounds. Breathe. Come back to center. Walk the feet in, heel toe in, till you get about hips width apart. Bend the knees, take your hands to your knees. Come on up. Grab one of your blocks, take it between your knees, not your thighs, and squeeze. Whew, another little reset here, right? We do a lot of these wide leg poses. I've been really enjoying just kind of coming back to center each time. So what's all this got to do with anything? Where I'm heading quickly is to triangle pose. So take that block out and again have both blocks up at the front of your mat. You really only need one, but. So take your left foot forward. Actually go wide again, but don't go as wide as you can, right? Just take it into a nice, easy stance. And if I'm mirroring again, your left foot turns slightly in, just slightly in. So the big toe is further forward than your heel. And before you do anything else, I want you to feel a lift of the inner arch of your back foot. Just feel that. Feel how you can move the inner groin, the inner knee, all back and away a little bit. And then take your front foot and turn it so it's pointing straight ahead. Just feel the legs. Notice the torso. Press against or away with both feet and pause. You're going to take your back hand to your hip, your front hand to your thigh. And I'm just going to come down part way, just part way. I'm mid-thigh, I'm checking it out. I'm going, okay, so what's happening? The front hip has to draw back again, right? This front glute is drawing back and under toward the back thigh. The side torso staying long. Backhand stays on the hip, reach the arm out. And imagine making from the hip crease to the fingers really long without dumping into the hip crease. Now take your hand back to your thigh, come down a little bit lower. Does the chest stay open? Does the tailbone stay long? Does this front hip stay wrapped back? Go beyond the knee, maybe, for you. Does the pose change? Can I get the underside body long while pressing through the back leg? For me, I've got to lengthen that tailbone so I don't overarch. So you're here, you're here, and you stay here. The hand pushes into the shin resists. Or you take your block, inside block, you take your left side block to your outside ankle, and you hold. And you play, and you lengthen, and you go, what does this pose feel like in my body, right? What is happening here? Am I still upright in my torso, right? Is the shoulder rounding? Is anything happening? Maybe you take the top arm up to the ceiling. Now, a lot of people like to look up. For me, my neck doesn't like that, so I stay neutral. Neutral cervical spine, my chin is level. I breathe, I push through the legs. Find your pose, everybody. And then take that top hand back to your hip. Take the bottom hand back to your shin and see if you can come right back up neutral. Well done. Take those feet pointing forward, hinge from your hips. Come on down. Grab your block. You'll need it for the other side. And when you're ready, you're going to start to come back up. You can take that block with you. Just grab it and lift up with it if it's not already moved. Now, your right foot's going to curl in just a little bit. Your left foot's going to point straight forward. You're going to think about where these hips are in space and how your pose feels on this side. Chances are it's going to be different, right? So the first thing I want to do is get really tall. Backhand stays on the hip. The front hip just comes down part way. And then I say, all right, what's happening? I want to bring the front sit bone to the back, right? I want to feel the support of this leg, press into the big toe, not hyperextend the knee. Get taller in the torso. Maybe slide down a little bit more. Just pause. Take that bottom hand because it's so light, right? Your legs are supporting you that you reach it up and out and get the underside ribs really long. And then take it back down, maybe below the knee. Lengthen through the torso. Feel your pose. What's happening? I just took my hand to my sacrum to get a sense of what it was doing because it felt a little funky, and I shifted the hips and now it doesn't feel funky, right? So this is your inquiry. This is what we're doing here is we're going, okay, I don't like that. So I'm going to quit doing what she said and see what's happening. Yes, right? Be your own teacher. And then maybe take the top arm up. Maybe take your hand to your block. It should feel light. It should feel supported. Breathe. And then hand to hip, other hand to shin, slide all the way up. Ooh, turn your toes in. Pigeon toe the toes just a little bit and come on down. Find your breath. And then heel toe in, everyone. Bend your knees, grab your block, come on up to standing. Take the block between your thighs again. Walk the feet in so that they are hips width apart. Inhale, reach up. As your hands come to your heart, come on down, chair pose. Whoop. Turn sideways here. So chair pose, right? Everything feeling really supported, giving that block a nice little squeeze, maybe 30, 40%, getting everything feeling reset here. And then sink down until those hands hit the floor. Walk your feet back. Yes, the block is still there. Squeeze the block. Let the inner sit bones, the inner thighs roll back. Open up the shoulders, press through the hands. Downward facing dog. Hold and breathe and explore. And then heels lift, your knees drop down to the floor. Go ahead and take your block out, set it aside, and maybe find a child's pose here. Find your breath. And then from your child's pose, just kind of wrap yourself around. You're going to come back to the floor. You're going to want your block and your strap where you can get to it. And then come on back down to the floor. Ah, ah. And just pause here for a moment. Allow your hips to resettle. Allow your back to resettle. You're going to straighten your right leg down to the floor. You're going to take the block in your left hand and you're going to take the left leg out to either like kind of a weird half Baddha Konasana, or in my mind, I'm thinking more tree pose. Okay. So one knee is out. I've got my sole of my foot resting along the inner thigh of my right. It's closer to the knee for this one. And the hips feel pretty level. The block is supporting my outer knee. Okay. Outer knee, outer thigh. And just pause here. Try to settle. Even though my right leg is active, I'm not overdoing it. I'm just trying to settle it. And breathe. And then ever so gently, I want you to try to push your left knee down into the block. Now, I can't push it really. I mean, my knee isn't touching, it's more inner thigh. But what you'll notice is that when you do that, the whole back glute activates. And then just let that go. And 2 more times, I want you to try to push that thigh into your block. Let the left glute get super active. Hold that for a moment. Don't forget to breathe. And let it go. Fully let go. One more time. Press into the block. Relax your face. Maybe you smile. Squeeze your glute. And let go fully. Bring the left knee back up. Straighten both legs. Same thing, other side. Bend the right knee. Allow the right knee to go out to the side. Support it with a block underneath that thigh, underneath that knee. So you have something there that the leg can rest on. Activate the left leg a little bit. Level your hips, right? So both hip points are pointing up and they're even high, low, side to side. And just pause here. Just wait a moment to see. Deep breath. And then when you're ready, you're trying to push that knee down into the block, getting the glute on that one side really active. And then let go. So sometimes, right, especially with the glutes, we can feel one side, but we can't feel the other. We can activate one, but we can't activate the other, or one's strong, one's weak. So we're just playing here. When you're ready, push into the block, squeeze that glute, keep the hips even. And let it go. Ooh, fully let go. We got one more here. Push, breathe, squeeze, smile. And let go. Good job, everybody. Fully let go. And then take the right knee back up, straighten both legs. Keep the block where you can get to it. And then bend both knees. On the inhale, I want you to tilt your pelvis to make a space behind your low back. On the exhale, I want you to tuck your pelvis and lift your hips, bridge pose. You don't have to go high here. Wrap the sit bones down and under. Feel the glutes active. Isometrically pull your heels back. So, working with those hamstrings, we stretch the heck out of them. We want them to get active here. So, as we try to drag the heels back, we get the hamstrings working nice and strong. Breathe. Your hands can do whatever they feel good. I kind of like the elbows to shoulders down with the fingers up. Pull them back and then release that pull back and lower your hips. Deep breath. So again, if you happen to be in a chair, there's an easy way to do this. You put your feet on the floor and you isometrically try to pull one heel back. It'll get those hamstrings working. So it's a really nice way to do that. So again, arch on the inhale, tuck on the exhale, lift your hips, lengthen the sit bones deep under, pull the hamstrings back, everybody, or pull the heels back, activate the hamstrings. Breathe. You got this. And lower down. We have one more, one more, one more. Here we go. Inhale and arch. Exhale and tuck. Lift the hips. Feel the glutes. Reach back for those hamstrings. Pull the heels back. Find your breath. Maybe lift your toes. What? Breathe. Fire them up. Just feel what's happening. Maybe walk your shoulders under. Maybe interlace the hands underneath you. Let go of the toes. Lengthen the tailbone. And as you release your shoulders, release your hands. Grab that block. Place it at the lowest level underneath your sacrum and set your hips back down. Oh, see how nice that feels. I know. And then just rock a little side to side on the sacrum. So you're just rocking from edge to edge. Go easy. And then check the pelvis again. Try to find a relative neutral. Bring one knee toward your chest, the other knee toward your chest, and both legs up to the ceiling. Once your legs are up, find your hover point, everybody. So that place where you don't have to work on the legs at all, they're just going to stay there. If you feel your hips or your sacrum, shift the pelvis, right? So sometimes we can kind of tuck too much or we can tilt too much. So find the spot where it feels really good for you. And just breathe here. Let the upper body be super soft. If you happen to be using a chair, you can take your legs up the wall or up on your chair. Easy breath here. Just notice what happens when we get calm and quiet. Bring your right knee to your chest. Don't hold on to it. Just bring it toward your chest. Bend the left knee and start to bring that foot to the floor. Once that foot is to the floor, straighten it, straighten the left leg to your level. Relax both feet. Don't pull the right knee in. Try to keep the pelvis neutral. And just breathe, a little bit of a hip flexor stretch. And if you still feel fine, take the left arm up and overhead so that the whole left side is stretching. Soften down. If the left arm is overhead, let that come down. Slide your left foot up until the knee is next to your right. Keep the left knee in, put your right foot on the floor, and then slide the right leg out. Pause there for a moment, just feel that. Relax your feet. I tend to want to flex my feet here. There's no reason to do that. And then right arm overhead if you would like. Deep breath. Release your right arm. Slide your right foot back to the floor. So knee is bent. Release your left foot back to the floor. Squeeze the hips a little bit. Lift up. Take the block out from under you. And lower your hips to the floor. Ooh, bring your knees to your chest. Listen up. You're going to take the hands inside your knees, like fist beside fist, and you're going to squeeze in a little bit. Just a little, again, reset. Squeeze and release. Take both hands to the outside of your knees. Push your knees out into your hands. Resist. And release. Right knee in, left leg straight. Stretch it out. And switch sides. Left knee in, right leg straight. And release. And finally, let's find Shavasana, everybody. Make sure you're warm enough If you're up here with me, you might be putting your socks on or your shirt on or your blanket. But once you find your Shavasana, maybe your blocks go underneath your thighs. Allow yourself to get really comfortable in this pose of surrender. Softening down fully. Letting go. Letting everything be as it is and resisting nothing. Allow yourself to fully let go, everyone. Soften even more. And allow yourself to take a nice deep breath. Start to wiggle your toes and your fingers. And very slowly draw your knees up toward your chest. Rock side to side, maybe some knee circles here. And then ever so slowly let the knees drop to one side or the other. Curl up in fetal pose. Send yourself a message of love and appreciation. And then as you're ready, press all the way up. Bring your hands to your heart. Bow to your own inner goodness, inner worth, inner love. Namaste, everyone.
Namaste.
Thank you all so much.